You are now listening to Thinking Out Loud with your hosts, J. Lip and J.Rhodes.
Thinking Out Loud, we back at it, man. It's your boy J. Lip. I'm blessed to have my co-host with me once again, the Honorable J.Rhodes. J.Rhodes, what's good?
What's good, bro? I didn't graduate to the Honorable moniker. That's what's up.
Yes, sir. Yeah. All right. So you're the Honorable J.Rhodes for the evening. And we are blessed this evening to have the company of two people I consider in high regard, the brethren B.Mills and G Money. B.Mills, what's good, baby?
What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing great, fam. And G Money, what's good?
What's good, fam? How you doing?
Doing great, bro. Now, I'm going to give people a little bit of background because this episode is kind of an impromptu joint that was a response to a previous episode that we did specifically with Mr.X on hazing, the process, fraternity, pledging, burning sands. I'm excited to have these two people with us tonight because I know these two men personally. I went through a very semi-process with them, I guess you would call it. I went through as far as I could with these two bros right here, and they are proud members of a fraternity, so they wanted to come and have the dialogue to kind of converse and say their piece on what they heard and what their opinions are on what we discussed already in the past week. So with that being said, I want to open the floor up. B.Mills, you said, I got to be on the next episode, blah, blah, blah. What sparked you to feel like you needed to speak on this topic?
Yeah, nothing against your man X, man. I don't know him. I don't know who he is. Obviously, he's using that moniker to try to stay anonymous or whatever. But some of the ways he was answering the questions, relating pledging to slavery and talking it was, like some kind of watered down version of slavery just didn't rub me the right way. I just felt like you needed a different voice from a fraternal order just to kind of set that straight, because I didn't see my pledge process as any type of like watered down slavery reincarnation.
So B.Mills, what would you say is the appropriate response that X should have gave as far as equating his process or the process not to slavery? What would you say he should have been in the perspective of?
Yeah, man. I mean, I was down in the comments on the last one, just throwing it out there. But like, I equate pledging to a rites of passage. I consider it to be, and if you want to take it back into, ancient civilizations, the Spartan rites of passage, or you want to even talk about Zulu warriors. Even nowadays, you could say Navy SEAL training or even Marines. I consider it to be a rites of passage to joining that elite group of people. I wouldn't equate it to getting beat down to try to make you into some type of slave or follower, I don't know, minion of an organization.
Now, to be fair, if I recall what Mr. X was saying, and I'm paraphrasing, he said that the parallel to slavery was kind of like to strip you down and humble you to your most vulnerable, kind of like how they did here to try to brainwash us and teach us to be docile, I guess, in the American way. I guess he was saying in a metaphoric way, the fraternities are stripping you down to your most humble state so that way you be reborn or recreated in the image of the organization.
Right.
But think about
in some ways. Go ahead.
I was going to say, think about the premise of the way you set that up. You want to talk about it as slavery versus if you consider the way in which I framed it, joining the Navy SEALs is an accomplishment. To be a Spartan warrior was an accomplishment. To be a slave was to be a slave. Like I don't equate my process with slavery.
I kind of got what X was saying because I was able to catch the episode. Now, I didn't agree with his, correlations to slavery in the process. Mainly like with our fraternities and sororities, we don't write down information. We don't write down our process, especially now that, a lot of this stuff is considered illegal. So what we'll do is we'll kind of transfer our process through word of mouth, right? So however it is that you were brought in, more than likely the individuals that are bringing you in were brought in kind of similar, if not the same. And so he probably heard that from his pro-fights and probably passed that type of information on, which is no fault to him. But and just to be honest with you, a lot of us that have gone through the process and have become, members of our respective organizations, still don't necessarily understand the history behind it. I mean, we can equate it to, and I'm in the military as well. So I can say that a lot of things in the military, like when I was going through basic training, when I was going through officer candidate school, were very similar to me being online, especially the mental aspects standing online. Even if you watch the Burning Sands, you could see like those individuals were standing online, having to take certain direction, having to work as a unit, things on that nature. Those are extremely important within any organization, especially in the military. And so, but equating it to slavery, you got to remember how many years we were removed from slavery, number one. And then number two is like none of us has gone through that. We only kind of know what we've seen through movies and different literature that we've read and things on the nature. So trying to equate it to slavery is kind of off to me.
Well, that's a good point that you made, and I want to say you mentioned that you're now in the armed forces. So your experience with the armed forces, you said the process or the experience with the fraternity made you better prepared for the armed forces?
I wouldn't say better prepared. It was just very similar to get into my fraternity. I was on campus. I was able to talk to individuals. Now, it was frowned upon, but I was able to, stay in contact with certain individuals. You know what I mean? And so there were certain aspects that were similar, but there were a lot of aspects that were different. And, me just having to be completely isolated like I was going through basic training, going through OCS and other military schools, it was a lot more mental.
With that experience being more mental, what do you feel like the benefit was from being more physical going through the process with the fraternity?
Honestly, I don't think there was a benefit. I just think like I said before, I don't think there was really a benefit to it. I think that and X kind of touched on this in the previous episode, being hit or having to go through certain trauma in certain people's eyes makes them respect you or deems you as an equal in their realm. Whereas I don't really agree. I don't think that passing down trauma is something that should be rewarded, or what's the word I'm like, exalted. And I think that a lot of times in our organizations, we do, in a sense, kind of pass down trauma, saying that this individual has to get beat to a certain extent or have to take the type of pain or psychological pain, or whether it's physical or whatever, that you had to endure just to say that they're a member of your organization. I don't really agree with that. And I mean, you can look at it just like an individual getting a whooping at home, right? And that's, people don't really understand the origin of whoopings. A whooping it's not something that should be deemed as you being more black or you having more discipline instilled in you because you were able to endure a beating. I don't really agree with that.
Wow.
I think that the physicality is more used as a means to an end. I think that there's a huge focus on it because it's great to talk about, right? It's the reason why we're here today. It's sensationalized. And I think that a lot of people enjoy talking about that because as much as people may not want to admit it, human beings are drawn to violence. I just think that that's the way that somehow we were coded. But throughout history, all the wars you want to talk about, I was actually listening to Colin Cowherd today, and he made a mention about why boxing is the most exciting sport to all people. He said, if I came around the corner and told you two guys are over there playing basketball, you might say, I don't know. But if I told you two dudes are around there fighting, you're going to get up, run, knock your desk over, and try to see what's going on. And so I think that we oftentimes focus on the physicality, but it's more of a means to an end, just because in a way, I'll say that nobody knows any better. If you want to put it into context, the underground process is what is known today, quote unquote underground process has only been around since like the beginning of the 90s. So if you look at it that way, it's only been 27 years since people have started doing this. There is like our organizations have been around for hundreds of years. There was a time where everybody was on campus, you could see everything going. There was more accountability because, to be honest, you couldn't injure somebody the way that you could in the Burning Sands movie or whatever it was called. You couldn't injure somebody and not let it be known because people were on campus every day seeing these people. So will I say that I condone the physicality? No, I won't say that, but I'll definitely say that I can understand why we use it.
So help us understand, and I guess I'm speaking for myself and Rhodes from the last episode, help us understand why is it necessary?
Let's put it this way, right? So this is my first time ever being on this podcast. Let's say y'all blow up, right? I'm talking about blow up your way. Y'all started making all kind of money off this podcast. Y'all got merch, everything is popping, right? And I see this happen, right? And so somebody hit me. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm part of that podcast. And this is the only episode I ever done. I'm like, oh yeah, that's my podcast. I started getting speaking engagements. People started writing me checks. I write a book about it, all this stuff, right? And y'all like, this motherfucker was only on my part of my language, but this dude, he was only on one podcast.
This thinking out loud. Once again, say
Okay,
what you were saying.
my bad.
This motherfucker, what?
I'm just saying, like this dude, he taking credit for everything he do. He
Not
getting
this
checks off
dude,
what
this
we did.
motherfucker. Say it again.
This motherfucker. You got me though, but this motherfucker out here taking credit for everything we done, and he ain't done nothing. He ain't put no hours in editing. He ain't organized no conversations. He ain't led no conversations. Like, what has he really done to be able to put his name on what is ours? Now, take it a step further. If you had to get your ass beat for this podcast, and I was taking credit for it, you would feel doubly as upset that I was able to just come in and take advantage of what you put in so much work to get.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I understand B.Mills' sentiment. I'm sorry, Rose.
I'm trying to understand that too. Okay, I get it. Like, okay, if you part of this, like for example, if we got this group, the Thinking Out Loud podcast, you got your organization, your fraternity, right? Mm-hmm. So if I saw somebody perpetrating, like, oh yeah, I'm part of that too, y'all be upset. But the initiation, however way we got into these groups, should not be easily duplicated or fabricated. You know what I'm saying? Like, for example, like Lip, for example, Lip said he was online, he dropped for whatever reasons, and if he was out there perpetrating, like, oh yeah, I'm down with this, I'm down with that, you ain't got your letters, you ain't got no credibility, you ain't got no OG, no sans, or no all those things. Like, so I'm trying to see how you equate that to the physical part of the initiation process.
That's a good point.
Because if we're talking about the pledge process, the pledge process is only still around for respect. Let's be honest right now. I'll put that on the table.
That's not 100% true, fam. That's not 100% true.
I mean, please tell me why it's not. Because at the same time, we could have joined our organization through MIP. MIP is a 2-week course in which you learn information about the organization. You take a test, and you're a part of the organization.
It's 6 weeks. I'm certified now, beloved.
Oh, excuse me. It's 6 weeks, right?
It's 6 weeks, but I get what you're saying.
In MIP, what part of the MIP is physical?
None of the MIP is physical. Now, this is just we're gonna scale it back a little bit, right? Because we're talking about like right now. You have to put these things into context, right? So you have to look at look at the 70s, look at the 80s, look at the 60s. My father pledged in 78. My father went through a pledge process. My father was, he did take wood. He was online. He was, and one of the members of our chapter hit him in the head with the phone book. Mm-hmm. And so, and I was actually at a grad chapter meeting actually a couple of days ago, and they were talking about this. And you have brothers that, that crossed in the 60s. You have mm-hmm. brothers that crossed in the 70s that, were talking about their process. And that, and so I don't necessarily think it's just for respect. I think it means something to these people. And also, like a lot of them, they take certain aspects of the process and incorporate them into their daily lives. Like for instance,
Well, G, let me clarify what I'm saying. I'm not saying that when I said that, I thought I had prefaced it with it's only around today in terms of respect, because obviously there is a bond. I mean, the physicality bonds people because it's an experience that we share together. I'm talking about today, like as of circa 1990, the pledge process as we know it, as far as physicality and hazing and whatever you want to call it, is only around for respect, because you can join an organization and not go through any other physicality today.
I agree with you, but what do you think is from a respect standpoint? If you're looking at, are you talking about respect from a BGLO standpoint, or are you talking about it from the public eye standpoint? Or are you talking about both? I
think both. I think both, because I mean, really, it's heavy in the BGLO, right? Because most people want to charge you up, like that's the quote unquote term for it. That's the little slang word, charge you up and see, like where'd you cross, who are some of your pro fights, they want to get your backstory so they know that you're quote unquote made, right? So I mean, because that's what it's all about, paper versus made. And so when you break that down, to me, that's only about respect. Because you could go anywhere in the world, join an organization through the MIP process, wear the letters outside, and nobody would know from Adam if you were paper or made.
I can get that sentiment. I mean, I feel that sentiment. I don't 100% agree, but I can get that sentiment.
Well, let's hold on for a second, though. Let's take it back and say, you said paper or made. What is paper or made for the people that don't know?
I mean, we all, so we're talking about the pledging process, which is to be made. It's to go and have, go through whatever process designated by whoever's in charge of that to take you from being that person who was, unknown, unbeknownst to the organization into being a member through whatever underground pledge process you go through, versus paper would be that MIP, you went, you studied, you signed a piece of paper, and now you're a member.
Okay, so
basically you didn't take wood, you didn't, there was no physicality, there was no you didn't have to go through any like psychological challenges or anything along those natures. You weren't stressed, you weren't quote unquote humbled or humiliated or anything along those lines. You just had to go to your meetings, you had to take a couple of tests, and you signed your paper, and you got your letters. That's pretty much the difference between paper.
So paper gets less respect.
Well, I mean, it depends on the way you say it, because a lot of times the quote unquote paper people are running our organizations.
Yeah, a lot of times.
Now, B.Mills, I remember back when I was on campus back at MSU, if somebody said, "Oh yeah, they paper," or they paper, like it was frowned upon. Like, and I said, I'm not Greek at all, but I recall that sentiment from people like, "Oh, they paper."
Yeah, it's the respect aspect I was talking about.
I get the respect that, because like I said, I was on campus, just like I was on the same campus you guys were on, and I was very adamant about somebody being made at one point in time. But throughout my I've been Greek for 10 years now, and I've seen a lot more, and I have more, in some cases I have more respect for people who are paper than I have respect for people who are made, mainly just because of the work that they pass outside, that the work that they actually do for their fraternities. Because you'll have people who run around and will go to parties and messing with the girls, but they won't put any work in for their fraternity. They won't go to any chapter meetings, they won't pay their dues, they won't do any community service, anything along those lines, but they took some wood. You know what I mean? Whereas you have individuals who, through various circumstances, maybe the process wasn't for them, or maybe something happened during the process where they weren't able to continue, were able to get their letters, and they genuinely have love for the fraternity and they genuinely put in work. And I'm not talking about throwing parties or being popular. I'm talking about going in, putting together certain programs, informing the campus of certain things, not even the campus, but going outside of the campus and doing things within the community and trying to be a change engine in the community, or just try to contribute to the community. So I mean, all of these things kind of play a role in whether or not an individual gets respect in my eyes. But I mean, I think what B.Mills was kind of talking about was when we were on campus and when we first crossed, there was a clear distinction against those who were paper and those that were made. And if you were paper, you were less than those that were made.
So one of the things that stuck out to me is the fact that you mentioned that, you used to believe in one faction and now you believe in a different faction. How do you go from physicality, like y'all said? When you go through the physicality, you feel like, I went through this process, I earned it. And then you see a dude that slides in, taking a couple tests, and he's like, yeah, I made it. And it's not the same. Like,
man, no, a better question is, if you had the opportunity to go back in time, to have never pledged, and to instead do the MIP process, would you have?
No, probably. I didn't know anything about the MIP process.
No, I'm just talking about with the knowledge you know now. Would you have gone back? Would you change
what I know now?
Damn, that's a good question.
No, I said no. Only because, and it's not just, from what I know now or anything along those lines. It's just like what happened. At the time, I was very proud to be going through the process. I mean, I'm still, very proud to have gone through the process because, and so, but, I was talking to you about this, yesterday. Look, me going through the process wasn't just about becoming a. It was more so because, I have so many family members and men that I look up to that are. It was about, rites of passage to manhood in a sense, you know what I mean? And so because they all went through the process, I wanted to go through the process too, especially, just as much as I look up to my father, that was something that he had went through. And I wanted to be able to say that I did the same thing. And honestly, I feel the same way today.
Yeah, and honestly, I only ask that because I feel the exact same way. Like, to me, it was an honor to have done it. And not only that, but I don't think that there is another process that I can come up with. If there's somebody out there who has a better process, I'm sure that you have many open ears that are willing to listen, but I don't think there is another process that could have bonded me to strangers faster than what our process was.
Like, for instance, my co-host right now, J.Rhodes, that's somebody I consider my brother. Like, would you agree, J.Rhodes? Well, fuck you then. If you don't agree, that's fine too. I thought it was my bro. He's not, but I consider J.Rhodes my bro. I consider, my brother Levi. Those are my brothers, but we didn't go through a process to make us brothers. We went through life to make us brothers. So the process does escalate and kind of accelerate the process of basically being accountable for your fellow man. And whoever's on that line with you is your fellow man. So I remember when one of the dudes on the line with me had to take 1908 strokes because that was the year that the fraternity was founded, and he wasn't showing enough loyalty and accountability for his brother.
Ski wee.
1908 is a sorority founding
That's an
date.
AK. That's an AKA.
Yeah, those are the
man.
AKAs.
You said
said
1908.
Oh my God, that's why he ain't making.
For one, don't say don't.
I didn't have my knowledge up.
During the process, just to be honest. I mean, like, I'm gonna be real with you. I was hurt. I was hurt. I was hurt about all because it was 13 of us. I was upset about all 6 that left. Like, because y'all didn't just walk out on just like, I don't want to be this, I don't want to be that. Y'all walked out on us. Cause I remember talking to y'all like, man, let's back, man.
No, shit, let's air it out then. If you was upset about that, then why were you not upset with the fact that this is not what I understood the process to be like? We got told about scholarship, brotherhood, loyalty, and what was the other? There was a fourth thing that was important, like Christianity.
It was 3, beloved. It was 3.
Yeah, it's 3. Bro.
Okay, fine, 3. But if you feel hurt about it, but I mean,
because look,
we laughing now, but
I kicked it with you outside of all of that because I knew you before all that, so it was like I just felt like, all right, it wasn't his thing. I was cool with it. I don't share the same sentiments as Mills does.
Wait.
It was like,
don't y'all paint me like I'm saying I was mad at him. I'm not saying I was mad at him. I'm saying I was hurt because he left me. Like that's the thing. Like we were there. Pause.
Y'all was a couple, fam.
I got you.
Y'all was dating.
Nah, man. But no, dog. This is. but no, for real though, because like we were down there, because obviously we all thought we was gonna make it together. It's strength in numbers. It was way more of us than it was of them. Let's be honest. And I mean, like, we were all getting taught the basic principles of brotherhood. Of how to be there for you when you see somebody who can't take it as much, you got to be there for them.
Right, you jump in, and that's the thing they taught us.
So for me, like I just was like, look, man, everybody, I was like, we gonna get through this together. We gonna be here, everything gonna be all right, blah blah blah, and people just left. So as far as during, it wasn't no way we were gonna be able to talk to you anyway, because like we were doing it. But then afterwards, it was just like, damn, dog, like, y'all could have been here with us. I never held no ill will. Like, I was always cool. It ain't like I ever saw you in public. I was like, fuck you, dog. Don't talk to me. Because
you got to think, man. Like, niggas drop line every day, B.
Yeah, dog.
It is what it is.
That was a personal thing.
Yeah, man. I mean, like, when you dropped it was like I was just on some paid on full camera shit. Like, niggas drop line every day, B. You be all right. You tough, right? And we just, we had to go and do what we had to do. So,
hey, look, man, you just went about that life, dog. That's all it is to it.
J.Rhodes, dog, you ain't right at all.
No, that's my bro. That's my bro. I'm just saying, but like for me, I knew I went about that life, so I didn't even play with it.
I think you were just in your head already. Like I said, like you want to say you respect us for going through it, but I would say I respect you for knowing your limits, because beyond what, if you get to the point of what happens next, like it's not, there is no way that if you couldn't, and no offense to you, if you couldn't handle what was happening in that once a week time period where we come in and do something, it ain't no way once you hit the transition and actually get online, are you gonna be able to handle that?
What you experienced, multiply that by 20. I can't go into depth.
Yeah, that's the problem.
But you're not explain. That's the whole point of this conversation. Explain
right.
how.
But there's just certain things that I can't talk about. Me having a moniker or an alias or whatever. There's just certain things that I can't speak on. But I can kind of allude to it. Let's talk. We can kind of talk about Burning Sands, right? Because that was what you guys were talking about with X previously, right. On the previous episode. So you saw certain things that we would have never allowed in our chapter, such as like the individual getting spit on or kicked, or didn't. If I'm not mistaken, they got slapped in the face, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Just stuff that would not have been allowed, in our chapter. But you saw certain things where the individual, let's say that individual couldn't be on the yard, right? Which was not a rule for us, but let's say if our big brothers would have said don't be on the yard and we got caught on the yard, we would have had to pay for that one way or another. There would have been some type of consequence for that. It's not just that one day a week. You're enduring this 6 days a week on a continuous basis. Your body's breaking down. You're becoming a lot more mentally unstable. One of my sons, he was extremely mentally unstable. Like he, throughout the whole process, he just got angrier and angrier as the process went on. And I mean, no fault to him, because I mean, now he's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. But during that time, he became, in Mills, you know exactly who I'm talking about. But he became, extremely unstable as the process went on, And those are things that you have to, that you just deal with. The process meant it impacted each of us differently, because we have different backgrounds, we have different experiences prior to us coming to. We all have different perspectives on how we see the world. And so everyone, it just impacted everyone differently. Whereas, I could fall asleep right before we went and did what we did. I could go to sleep and I'd be fine. Like, I'd be in the basement and, we did whatever we did, and I would go back to sleep, or I would sleep right before we would go there.
I might have to shit the whole time we got to do before we go down there, because the stomach just rumbled.
Right. It just depends, different people just handled it different ways. Like when we would get out of when we got out of our session, I would go to my dorm and I wouldn't talk to nobody for until I had to go back to until it was time for us to meet up again. Yeah. Whereas other people, they were around each other all the time. B.Mills and another individual, they were together, pretty much the majority of the time we were online. So
damn it, the whole process.
Yeah, pretty much people just it impacted people differently.
It was Rose. What you drinking? Like a long?
That's not even me. That's not even me. Check yourself, dog. Come on, man.
Who is that drinking the ice water, man?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
No, I hear it too. That's what you're talking about.
Bro, I felt like we was in it together. Like, that's some shit that you can't undo. I let a nigga slap me on my chest until my chest caved in. But
I remember that day. He didn't really it wasn't a lot of slaps. He kind of flew across the room and hit you. But
yeah,
exactly.
I know who we talking about.
But speak on it though. That's what this is about.
The picture is so drastic. Like, come on.
But this is the thing though. And you speaking on the reason why we say like the physicality is there, right? Because I mean, like, because there's nothing in you right now that would say like, oh, I would go back and do it just to say that I crossed, just to say I was made. It was about who you were with in the basement going through it with. Mm-hmm. And I mean, and that's the reason why we do what we do in general. As we learned going through the process, if somebody needed our back a little bit more, we learned how to cover for them. That was something we obviously didn't know in the beginning, but as we got more deep into it, we knew who to cover. We knew who to take care of. We knew who couldn't do certain stuff and where we had to pick up for them. That's how you learn. That's how you learn and grow through the process.
Yeah, just to be honest with you, fam, I wasn't the best at taking ass whoopings. I don't like taking ass whoopings. You know what I mean? And if I could get my way out of the ass whooping, I was going to get my way out of the ass. Whether it was faint and weak, I just wasn't with it, man.
And also the two dudes opposite of you covered your ass.
Pretty much, and I knew that they would, so I was like, bet, because
oh man.
I mean, and I appreciate them for it, but I just wasn't an ass whooping type of cat. It just wasn't my thing, But but there were other things that I was really good at, such as spitting history. I could spit history. I could help entertain. I could there was a lot of other things that I was good at. So it was just, but the ass whooping part, that just wasn't in my nature. I just don't like getting my ass whooped, and I'm saying that because there's no knock on individuals, on people who just don't like getting hit. That doesn't make you any less of a person or a man or whatever. You just don't like getting hit.
I know plenty of motherfuckers who made it through and didn't get hit all that much.
That's fact.
You know what? Actually, after having this conversation with you two brothers, and I think also the fact that I have a relationship with y'all, and definitely, I'm knowledgeable to some extent of the organization, at least that chapter. I kind of gained a lot of respect for the process in a way. I never really had a big problem with it. I just kind of
wow.
From the outside looking in, hold on. From the outside looking in, I didn't agree with it because I didn't feel like that was the best way to quote unquote weed people out. But the fact that you guys can, both of you guys can kind of back each other up, and then also lift your element is different too. Because like I said, you really come from a perspective like totally different. But I understand.
With all that being said, we thankful for the gratitude we received from B.Mills. Thank you, bro.
No doubt, man. You know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
G Money, thank you, bro.
No problem, man. It's all good.
Yeah, and thank you guys for your transparency. Absolutely.
My co-host J.Rhodes.
Oh yeah, bro. The fuck?
This is thinking out loud, man.
Consider you as a brother, man.
Wait.
Hey, make sure you keep that in the edit too.
I know, man. Man, this is thinking out loud, man. We out.
This episode of Thinking Out Loud was executive produced by J. Lip. Music provided by Daisy Smith. Artwork and logo provided by Rob D. And sponsored by you, the people. We thank you for listening.